One more rider coming to the line. You better chop, chop. And that rider'd be our moto, Mark Franklin. 45 plus, 55 plus, Masters 1, 2, 3, on course.
Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis of the Cycling Greek. After the first race I had at noon, I was feeling confident going into this race. And then I remembered, this is not just the 55 1-2-3s, this is the 55 and the 45 1-2-3s. At that point, my confidence went out the door. Once I was at the start line, there were two hurdles that I had to get over. The first was the initial start. Are these guys going to blast out? Just in case, I lined up in the second row in this 50-rider field. Fortunately, the start wasn't anything that I couldn't handle. Now, there was a rider that decided to do an early breakaway, but the pack didn't decide to chase him until it was into turn 1. The second hurdle I had to overcome was the actual speed of the pack. While I had a race rest in which the last half of that race I was just spinning on my bike getting ready for this race, my body still had to take time to adapt to that bigger gear speed. Before that was happening, my body was telling me, you know, you had a good race already, you had a good start to this race, there's nothing wrong with pulling out. Fortunately, I said, shut up legs, and about a lap later, my body adapted. That's not to say I wasn't watching the clock. I was. About halfway through the race, I started counting the minutes and looking at those lap cards. That all being said, as long as I was doing the right things, staying protected, taking good lines and accelerating appropriately out of corners, I was never really in trouble. My legs were taxed at times, but I never felt I was going to get dropped. The average speed of the first race I did was close to 24 miles an hour. The average speed of this race was 26.4. In the first half of the race, I spent most of my time in the back third of the peloton. In the second half of the race, I was spending more time toward the front. Before I was AFib boy, when things got fast, I would always do short, shallow breaths, almost like a rabbit being chased by a fox. After I was AFib boy, then I started to practice on doing slow, deep breathing. I was actually practicing that during this race and the race before. Fortunately, after a while, I could do it without even thinking twice about it. Let's fast forward to the last 3 laps. We have a lull in the speed, which gives me an opportunity to go toward the front. One of the things I forgot to mention is that we had wind on that day. It wasn't a huge gusting wind, but it was enough where you didn't want to be on the windward side unless you had to. From the backside of the course where we are now, the wind is coming from screen left and blowing screen right. Being on the protected side, I see an alleyway where I can get up toward the front. With the speed now 27 as it moves up toward the 30s for these last few laps, I just saved a bunch of energy making this move. When I finally do get to where I want to be, I notice everyone is looking at each other as the rider up ahead is making his bid for a solo win. At any moment, the attacks to chase will begin. Even though I'm in a good position now, I just don't have the acceleration that most everyone else has. I can lose that good position in just a few seconds.